We are less than 1 week away from GoFest 2020 arriving in-game. In this video, we'll be covering the top 10 tips that you need to know to maximize GoFest 2020. This is everything that you need to know to prepare ahead of the event, everything that you should be doing and not doing the day of the event, as well as everything during the event that you need to know about to maximize your GoFest experience. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the channel, trainers. My name is Oro Chris. I am your catching coach. If you are new to the channel, welcome. We do appreciate you stopping out. If you are interested in Pokemon Go, competitive PvP, and basically anything Pokemon related, consider subscribing. Now, as far as the details about GoFest 2020, what we know thus far is it's going to be a 2-day event. Unlike in years past, where this was an in-person live event at a host city like Chicago, now it's going to be a play-at-home style virtual event over 2 days, July 25th and 26th, this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. What we also know is the time during which you're going to be playing. It's going to be starting at 10 a.m., running until 8 p.m. local time both days. So that's 10 hours on Saturday, 10 hours on Sunday. 20 hours of Pokemon Go over this weekend. On day 1, on Saturday, we're going to be having rotating habitats. 5 habitats have been announced. It's going to be fire, grass, water, friendship, and battles. Maybe not particularly in that order, but close enough. Now, beyond the rotating habitats on Saturday, we also know that there's going to be a special research. Very likely special research for both days that they have announced. It's my recommendation, if you can't play both days, if you're going to be attending GoFest, at least log into the game both days during the game playing time, during the event period of 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. local time. Log in, have that initial conversation with very likely Professor Willow, get the special research started. Once you begin the special research, you'll be able to complete it after GoFest ultimately concludes. But you need to log in during those periods in order to register it in your game to be able to complete it afterwards. Now, in addition to those rotating habitats, they've announced over 75 Pokemon species are going to be available for encounters, raids, and in special research encounters during this weekend's event. Now, with that background behind us, let's get into the top 10 tips. Tip number 1, storage. You need to clear out a lot of Pokemon storage for this weekend. We're talking about 10 hours of gameplay on Saturday, 10 hours on Sunday. This is assuming that you're min-maxing the experience and going for the full 2-day lot of time. During that time, if we extrapolate that backwards and think about how much Pokemon storage you need for a 3-hour community day, how we used to run things, or the 6-hour community days, things that we've been doing recently during the social distancing response and play-at-home experience and things of that sort. Now, me personally, I'm able to get through a community day with about 200 spots of available storage open. Coming out of that, I am filled to the brim. I've got 28 shinies running around. It's hard for me to decide what Pokemon I need to transfer so I can continue to play. And that's just for 3 hours of gameplay. I haven't been doing the full 6 hours. Now, extrapolate that out, take that 3 times, maybe 3 times to get to the 9-ish or 10, close to 10 hours of gameplay on one day, times 2, ending on Saturday at 8 p.m. and then starting again on Sunday. There's not going to be a lot of opportunity in between to be clearing out bag space. So if 200 is enough for one community day, probably at a minimum, I would recommend having at a minimum 500 spots cleared out. And again, my recommendation, if you've not unlocked the full 3,000 available Pokemon storage spots, consider investing the gold. Start there. If you're a free-to-play player and that's not your style, you don't want to buy the Pokecoins, get Pokemon into a gym. Should have been doing that previously, but continue to do that during the next few days leading up to this weekend. Buy Pokemon storage, unlock those spots, but transfer the Pokemon that you're holding on to, and this includes those someday maybe Pokemon. Pokemon that have really good IVs, and what if someday maybe a Oddish gets a good move, a move shakeup happens for Vileplume, and now it's going to become meta relevant in Great League or potentially in the Ultra League. Those someday maybe Pokemon that are super common, like Oddish, it's time to cut your losses. And that brings us to tip number 2, item management. Now, I recommended that you maximize your Pokemon storage. I'm also going to recommend that you maximize your item storage for this event. We're talking about more focused gameplay than we've had the opportunity to experience up to this point. 20 hours of in-game events is going to be a lot of Pokemon catching. You're going to need a lot of Pokeballs. If you're going to be using an accessory like the Pokeball Plus, you're going to want to have a lot of red balls. If you're going to be focusing more on quick catching or on manual catches, want to be doing the shiny checks to make sure that the Pokemon that you're trying to catch don't flee that are potentially shiny, you're going to need more Ultra Balls. In either case, as many balls as you can store in your bag, that is going to be a primary concern. You also need to consider, are you playing near Pokestops, which means you're going to be able to replenish balls more prevalently, or do you have access to gold to purchase balls? I know I typically do not like to spend gold on balls, but desperate times call for desperate measures. Now, me personally, I'm going to be using the Pokeball Plus, which means I'm going to want to have roughly 500 red balls, because I know that I'm not going to be near Pokestops during the entire time that I'm going to be playing over these 20 hours. I'm going to be prioritizing Ultra Balls. Additionally, Ultra Balls have the highest catch rate. They're going to be the best for using for manual catches and for the quick catch method. If you have the bag space lacking, I would recommend deleting the Great Balls if you have several hundred of the Ultra Balls, as well as the Red Balls. And that is, again, assuming you're going to be using a peripheral accessory, something like a Pokeball Plus. The reason being, Great Balls don't have as high of a catch rate as the Ultra Balls. And more importantly, Great Balls and Ultra Balls can't be used by the auto catchers, things like the Gacha or the Pokemon Go Plus, Pokeball Plus. As a result, they're the least useful of the balls that are available. Get rid of them. Clear out that bag space, focus on Ultra Balls and the Red Balls. Secondly, incense. Incense are going to be very important this weekend, but because during this event they're going to be increasing their efficiency, their effectiveness rate, they're going to be spawning Pokemon likely every half a minute. As a result, because they're only going to be lasting for an hour, we're going to need 20 roughly incense to be using during this event, which means prioritize those. If you have a lot of lore modules available, you can throw those on if you're going to be playing near Pokestops, but for you as a personal trainer, it's going to be much more important to have a lot of incense if you're hurting for bag space. As far as revives and potions, I've heard some recommendations from some other channels that you should get rid of those, clear those out. Me personally, I'm more of a conservative in that regard, because they've specifically announced that during the rotating habitats, there's going to be habitat for battles. And because we know that Team Go Rocket very likely is going to be involved in this week's events, and because recently remote raid invitations were introduced in the game, I am concluding that there's going to be a lot of battle-focused activity this weekend. As a result, I think it's very important to stock up on a lot of max revives and max potions, especially for remote raids, because a Pokemon that gets knocked out is completely revived at full health with a max revive. Get rid of potions, super potions, hyper potions, anything that is not a max potion or a max revive. Get rid of those, clear those out to make space for those more effective healing and reviving items. Berries. Me personally, if you're hurting for bag space, berries are one of the easiest things that you can get rid of. The reason being, you can feed them to Pokemon that are your buddy Pokemon, and more importantly, you can feed them to Pokemon that you have in gyms for your gym defenders. Each time that you feed a Pokemon in a gym a berry, you've got a roughly, this is according to the Sylph Road research team, roughly a 1 in 80 chance of that Pokemon giving you a candy for that berry. So if you've got berries clogging up your bag space, give those berries to Pokemon in the that are defending gyms, as well as your buddy Pokemon. Now, berries are going to be important because we know that there's going to be particular hours featuring friendship. In addition to fire, grass, water, battles, and friendship being that fifth habitat that they've discussed, it's very likely that there's going to be some type of task like feed your Pokemon, feed your buddy this many berries, or feed a berry to a Pokemon in a gym, things of that sort. So they're very important to have those on stock. As well, Pinup berries are going to be very important because if Gibble is running around rampant, if we do have those rare spawn, you're going to want to have candy for those Pokemon. Having a lot of Pinup berries is going to be particularly important, as well as raspberries and preferentially golden raspberries. With remote raid invitations being introduced, you can do a lot of raids between now and this weekend. Stock up on those golden raspberries, get those ready because those are the most effective way to get a high catch rate for your particular Pokemon encounter. In addition, silver Pinup berries have the 2-for-1 benefit. They give you double catch candy as well as increasing the catch rate for the particular Pokemon encounter. So those are particularly important. Those are only available in field research tasks. So if you complete a field research that has those as a reward, be sure to stock those aside because those could be particularly important this weekend. If you do come across a shiny Pokemon like potentially shiny Snorlax, that's a rare spawn, you may want to have extra candies for that. You'll want to be on the lookout for those. Stock up on raid passes. Now, because we know that battles are going to be one of the potential rotating habitat hours. It could be raid battles using premium passes. That could also include invitations or interactions with remote raids. So you want to be stocked up on both of those. In addition, I would recommend, because of how remote raiding has been working, each time that you engage in a remote raid, if you're doing that throughout the course of the day, pro tip, force close your app. That has, for me personally, has helped alleviate some of the lag issues that I experience in the game, and also enables me to engage in the next remote raid without having the error where it says you need to walk closer to the gym. If you're experiencing that particular error, usually restarting the app will correct that. And then finally, incubators. In years past, Pokemon eggs have been featured during GoFest. They have special 2-kilometer GoFest eggs. In order to clear out your bag space for the eggs that you have, you'll need incubators, as well as to hatch these special 2-kilometer eggs, you'll need more than just the infinite incubator. So having incubators running throughout the course of the event will very likely yield some interesting Pokemon if eggs are featured during this year's GoFest. That brings us to tip number 3, and that's going to be selecting the right buddy Pokemon. That's right, you may not have thought about it, but the buddy Pokemon that you have set during this weekend is going to be particularly important. In years past, a very common research task in both the special research for things like Jirachi and Celebi, as well as in field research for the tasks to get potentially things like rare candies. They've had some special field research tasks involving completing tasks at Pokestops to get rare candy. Fingers crossed that comes back this year. That has included things like earn a candy with your buddy. So in order to do that the most effectively, if you've got a Pokemon like a legendary that typically has a 20-kilometer buddy distance, it's going to be very difficult to earn a candy with that particular Pokemon. So focus on prioritizing setting a Pokemon with a 1-kilometer distance as your buddy Pokemon. Of particular concern, choose a Pokemon that has some benefit to you. Now, having a Pokemon as your buddy, 1, earns it hearts towards becoming a best buddy, and then 2, earns you candy if the Pokemon walks a certain distance to get there. Now, as far as buddy distance is concerned, you guessed it, the most important distance that you can focus for this to have the shortest potential earn a candy task to complete is going to be those 1-kilometer buddies. And if we head over to thesylphroad.com, we can see that they have a 1-kilometer candy reward list. Of particular note, Pokemon that have some meta relevance in terms of PvE and PvP content. Clefable is a very strong competitor in the Ultra League, as well as Gyarados. So having both of those Pokemon potentially as best buddies, Clefable at 100% maxes out just under that 2,500 threshold for the Ultra League, so becoming best friends with it, if you have a very high IV version, is a very strong option in the Ultra League. So earning candies while also earning hearts with it, that's going to be particularly important. And then the same thing with Gyarados for the Master League. And then one last thing to consider as far as selecting your buddy Pokemon. If you'll notice, at each level of friendship, good, great, ultra, and best friend, you get unlocks of particular incentives for having that particular Pokemon reach that threshold. The initial one as a good buddy for completing 1 heart worth of activity is you get a readable mood and the buddy joins you on the map. That's why you see the Pokemon walking around. What you should be aware of is the catch assist that occurs at the great buddy level. Catch assist means that if you throw a Pokeball at a Pokemon and it attacks at a particular moment, there's a chance that that attack will send the ball flying back to your buddy Pokemon. For me, in this instance, it would be Gabite. And then Gabite swats the ball back because my Gabite is over that Great League or Great Buddy threshold. And then it ends up landing that Pokeball back on the Pokemon that I'm having the encounter with. That's going to save me 1 Pokeball. Over the course of this weekend, it is very likely that you're going to be throwing a lot of Pokeballs at a lot of Pokemon. So this weekend is going to be particularly important to, 1, set a buddy that has that 1 kilometer distance to help you with the earn the candy task, as well as it's potentially possible you're going to be out moving around, so having a lower distance for Pokemon buddy candy is going to be important. But moreover, having a buddy set that has that great buddy level threshold met will give you that catch assist to ensure that you're going to be saving balls during encounters, because if you're throwing a lot of Pokeballs at Pokemon, they may be swatting those Pokeballs away. Having that catch assist is going to be particularly important in that regard. That brings us to tip number 4. That is going to be add Pokemon trainers as friends in the game. Having a lot of friends in the game is going to be particularly important this weekend. 1, we know that the rotating habitats are going to include an hour of friendship. Friendship very likely is going to include some task involving sending gifts to friends. We know that because Niantic tweeted, "Trainers, we recommend saving your gift interactions during GoFest Day 1 until the friendship habitat comes to you, as it will feature a global challenge to send gifts to friends. If the goal is met, gifts opened in the rest of the habitat's time may contain an unexpected item." Now, it's been hinted at in some other promotional materials that that item may be rare candy. So, tip number 1, have a lot of friends in your friends list. Have active friends, friends that send gifts. But 2, don't open those gifts prior to this particular event, but have gifts saved up so that you can send gifts to these particular trainers during this hour. 1, to reach the threshold for the global challenge, and then 2, to enable you to complete some of those research tasks if they're included in that friendship habitat rotation. Now that brings us to tip number 5, and that's going to be put Pokemon in gyms. You need to have some gym defenders this weekend. The reason being, one of the easiest things to get cleared out of your bag storage is going to be those berries. If you are spinning a lot of stops, you don't have enough Pokeballs, you need to keep making up bag space for the Pokeballs or for potions and revives, and you've got berries clogging things up. One of the easiest things to do is going to be feed those berries to Pokemon that are defending gyms. Now, as we discussed, each time that you feed a berry to a Pokemon, you've got that 1 in 80 chance of that Pokemon giving you a candy for feeding it that particular berry. So it's going to be important, 1, to put Pokemon in gyms that you want candy for, but additionally, each time that you feed a Pokemon a berry, you get 20 Stardust. So if you've got berries clogging up your bag, feeding them to Pokemon in gyms is going to enable you, 1, to clear out bag space, 2, to get some Stardust, and 3, potentially to get some candies for those particular Pokemon. So win, win, win all the way around. That brings us to tip number 6, and that is going to be clear out your eggs. Now, as far as incubating your eggs are concerned, in years past at GoFest, they have given out special 2-kilometer eggs at Pokestops. They've not announced that this year. This may be something that they're holding back as a surprise. It may be because of concerns about social distancing and things of that sort. They're not focusing on these special GoFest 2-kilometer eggs. But if they do, you're going to want to have those egg spots open. So incubate those eggs prior to the event, and be cognizant that if you are walking to the event and you spin a Pokestop because you want to fill up your bags for berries and things of that sort, if you are not capped on Pokemon storage and you've got open egg spots, you're just going to be refilling it with 5-kilometer eggs or other things that you're not looking for. So clear out the eggs, time it in such a way where they hatch preferentially right before the event starts, so you're not missing out on the opportunity to be spinning stops in the meantime, but it's also going to enable you to not be refilling the eggs once they hatch during the day of the event. That brings us to tip number 7, and that is going to be location, location, location. Now, scoping out the right place to be playing Pokemon Go during GoFest is going to be of the utmost importance. They've done a lot to promote play from home, with giving us access to increased effectiveness for things like the incense and things of that sort. You have the opportunity by opening gifts or by stocking up ahead of time to get things like Pokeballs and things of that sort, so you're ready to play the game from home. But if you're going to venture out, if you want to play in an area that will maximize gameplay, now again, disclaimers aside, follow the guidance of your local health authorities, maintain social distancing, be safe, wear a mask, and all of that. But as far as maximizing in-game experience is concerned, personally, I would recommend trying to play in an area where there are a lot of Pokestops. The reason for this, because battle is going to be one of those rotating habitats, and because we know that the special research is going to include Team Go Rocket at some level, it is very possible, in fact, very likely, that Team Go Rocket encounters are going to be one of the facets around this year's Go Fest. Now, we are going to have access to the Team Go Rocket balloons. I'm sure that the Team Go Rocket encounters with Jesse and James will be very prevalent, but it's very possible, in addition, that the special research is going to require some aspect of having Team Go Rocket encounters. To promote that, to make that the most effective as possible, you're going to need to be near Pokestops. You can rely on what's available in game in the balloons, but if Team Go Rocket encounters are boosted because of the importance of Shadow Pokemon, my recommendation would be to try to play in an area where Pokestops are going to be available. Moreover, it's going to be particularly important to keep your Pokemon item storage maximized, to be near Pokestops, to get more Pokeballs, revives, berries, and things of that sort. So all of that comes together to synergize around the idea of being near Pokestops is going to make the experience all the more fulfilling. And then finally, because Pokestops are one of the only ways that we know how to identify where particular Pokemon are, being near Pokestops, if there is a particularly rare Pokemon that you're looking for, if you want to find a Gibble, being in an area where Pokestops have that nearby menu to show you where a potential Gibble has spawned, that's also going to be extremely important in that regard. That brings us to tip number 8, what to do the day of the event. Now, as we mentioned a moment ago, do not complete friend interactions the day of the event, because during the friendship hours, if the global challenge threshold is met, interacting with friends at that point and opening gifts may give you an opportunity to get a surprise item. Very likely that could be rare candy. So that's going to be very important. So don't interact with your friends ahead of time as far as opening up their gifts are concerned. The day before, talk to your friends. Say, send me gifts, so that once the event arrives, if they transition or flip the switch and those gifts can turn into something like having rare candy inside, you're going to want to have a lot of friend gifts available to open once that ultimately is announced. So talk to your friends, make sure that they're sending you gifts leading up to this event. Moreover, the same is true for you. Be sure that you're sending gifts to your friends leading up to the day of the event. The day of the event, have gifts available and hold on to them. Don't send them to your friends, because as the tweet said, the day of, you're going to want to, during those friendship hours, have gifts to send to friends. But you can't do that if your friends haven't opened up the gifts that have already been sent. So this is all going to require some degree of balancing. In a perfect world, you're going to have your friends having emptied out all of their gifts available. You're going to have gifts available from your friends. That's why it's important to have a lot of friends, so that you ensure that you can reach those thresholds of having a lot of friends to send gifts to, as well as having a lot of friends available to open gifts from the day of the event. In addition, now again, this is true min-maxing. If we're trying to maximize the in-game experience on the day of, within a half an hour, because of how spawns work, this is the same thing that happens on community days. Typically, when a Pokemon spawns on the overworld map, it spawns 90% of the time for about a half an hour. So if you catch a Pokemon at 9:50 that just spawned, that Pokemon at 10 o'clock would have turned into an event spawn for GoFest. Because you caught it, however, that Pokemon is now off the overworld map, and you don't have the opportunity to catch it again until something else spawns at that particular spawn point an hour later. As a result, within about a half an hour of when GoFest starts, anything that spawns at where you're going to be playing, my recommendation would be don't catch those Pokemon, because once 10 o'clock hits, those commons, those Pidgeys or whatever are now going to switch, just like during the 6 o'clock Pokemon Spotlight hours, all those spawns are going to turn into event spawns. And if you've already caught the particular Pokemon that are all around you, now you're not going to have any Pokemon that are going to be event spawns for the next potentially half an hour. So something to keep your eyes on. Don't catch any Pokemon at the place you're going to be playing leading up to about a half an hour before the event starts. And in that same vein, don't complete any field research tasks at Pokestops, because if you complete a research task at the corner statue or wherever you're going to be playing, once the event goes live, those tasks would turn into event tasks that could potentially have rewards. Like last year, some of the rewards were a lot of rare candy tasks. If you've completed it for 1 free berry for catching 5 weather boosted Pokemon, then the event hits at 10 o'clock and that would have become earn a candy with your buddy to get a rare candy or 3 rare candy. You've now just thrown away that task because you completed it before the event started. So don't catch Pokemon, and don't complete the field research at the Pokestops where you're going to be. Now, tip number 9 is going to be set timers. Now, this is true for Community Day, but it's also going to be very true for GoFest. Setting a timer is going to remind you to replenish those consumable items. So if you're putting on lucky eggs, star pieces, the incense, they're going to be more efficacious. They're going to be running for an hour at a time. You're going to want to remind yourself that in a half an hour, I need to be feeding my Pokemon buddy a berry. I need to be playing with it to get it excited and things of that sort. Every half an hour, as we discussed, you can be feeding Pokemon in gyms. So setting a timer for that every half an hour to remind you to do those routine tasks will ensure that you're not missing out on having your star piece, for example, run out, and then you're catching Pokemon but not getting that 1.5 times boost to the Stardust. Similarly, incense can be particularly important. Those replenish once every hour. So if you're doing this every half an hour, then you'll know every 2 buzzers, you'll need to be replenishing that incense. And then finally, tip number 10, it might be worth it to buy a Poffin. Now, as we know, Poffin are a consumable item available in the shop that will get your buddy to an excited state. And what that does is, at an excited state 1, it unlocks additional hearts that you can earn with your buddy, which is going to be particularly important if the field research tasks and special research include some aspect of earning hearts to complete those tasks. By doing that, it's going to make it easier for you to complete those research tasks more quickly. But moreover, that excited buddy, once it reaches that state, it halves the buddy distance for that particular Pokemon. So, as we discussed, if you've got that 1 kilometer buddy set up, you've got it set, and you've now got it excited by using a Poffin, now you're going to have a half-kilometer distance necessary to earn a candy. That's going to be particularly important if the research tasks involve some aspect of earning candy with your buddy and things of that sort. I told you, it's going to be complete. Top 10 tips, the best tips that you can have for maximizing your in-game experience this weekend at GoFest. As I mentioned, in a separate video, we're going to be looking at tips for in real life matters. These are all of the tips associated with your in-game experience. Preparation prior to the event, what you should be doing leading up to the event, the day of, as well as what you can do to maximize the GoFest experience in-game during the event. In a separate video, keep your eyes out for that, we'll be taking a look at in real life matters. Things like have a mask, wear sunscreen, things of that sort. We'll get into those in a little bit more detail in that later video. If there's anything that I missed, something that you think is particularly important that should be included in a top 10 list like this as far as prep for GoFest is concerned, leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. I'd also love to know what the most important tip that you think people should be following in this year's GoFest should be. Me personally, 1 and 2. Tips 1 and 2 have got to be it. Have a lot of Pokeballs, have a lot of items, and clear out a lot of space. If you do those 2 things, that's the core of having a positive experience at GoFest. I do want to thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and until next time, happy catching.